This video will provide feedback on your final assignment if you chose to complete writing sample 1. Please have a copy of your assignment at hand before continuing on. We will start by looking at how you mapped writing sample 1 onto the assessment framework and have you compare your results with our own. Look at your completed assessment and compare your findings with our results shown here. Did you find the same or similar evidence in this piece of writing that mapped onto descriptors in band D and E? If not, can you provide a rationale for your findings? Think of these things as we move on to explain our own rationale for scoring this piece of writing as operating within band D and E. Let's first consider the broad descriptors for the bands and why we mapped the writing primarily onto band D with some evidence of band E. It is clear that the writer has moved beyond band C, a beginning stage of experimenting with more sophisticated writing, and now seems to be operating within band D, demonstrating competence in controlling the content and structure with greater accuracy. And yet, there are some instances where we see competence in writing accurately and independently in a variety of genres, as the writer has done in this literary analysis as they respond to a GCSE practice question. For these reasons, we began our assessment by focusing within band D and looking also for evidence that may map onto band E. Let's look more closely now at the evidence we found. First, we found evidence that aligns with band D descriptor 5, in which the writer produced an extended text developing a coherent argument, in this sample for a literary analysis, that was based on logical reasoning. This was mainly accomplished through the use of quotes, as we can see from one example here. The writer is also operating solidly within band D descriptor 9, demonstrating an awareness of cultural conventions of writing, such as in this opening sentence. I agree that the writer goes to great lengths to suggest that the mother shows both emotions of being angry and upset. Other conventions, such as correctly embedding quotes from another source, are also evident. We can see evidence of band E descriptor 2, where the writer was able to present a well-structured text on a complex subject with clear points. However, the points made were not always grammatically clear, which is why you will see the same descriptor chosen also as one of our targets later on. The evidence shows how the text unfolds with an opening statement, numerous examples of literary analysis, and a statement of closure. Finally, we see evidence of band E descriptor 5, where the writer is able to express a critical appreciation and appraisal of a literary text. This is evidenced in numerous places, as in this particular example, where the author writes, "The verb avenged implies the anger and furiousness of the mother." Have you found other examples of evidence from the text that you mapped similarly onto the framework? Once we have an idea of the English proficiency level of a learner, we can turn to language targets. Based on this sample piece of writing, what areas of language development did you choose to focus on? Again, your decisions may differ slightly from ours, but should ultimately help the writer move forward in an appropriate direction. We chose 3 areas to target language development. First, we would focus on band D descriptor 10, where the writer can add its own work, and as a result, writing shows greater fluency, accuracy, and appropriateness after proofreading. There are still a number of grammatical errors and a run-on sentence in the text, which the writer could possibly correct if we developed self-editing skills. Second, we would target band E descriptor 1, can produce clear and detailed text on a variety of topics in relation to curriculum subjects. For instance, a report on an experiment, a critique of current affairs. A common indicator of Band E is that students are able to accomplish tasks at this level across curricular subjects and genres. We would want to assess writing then across curricular areas and target those genres that may need additional support. And finally, even though this was listed as a strength, we would target Band E descriptor 2. Can present well-structured texts on complex subjects with clear points and justifications. The writer did produce a well-structured text with clear points, however, that doesn't mean there is no room for further growth. This is true especially in regards to the clarity of points in the midsection of the text. Showing evidence of working within Band E does not mean students no longer need support in language development, as language development is a lifelong endeavor. You may have chosen to focus on other areas. If so, what was your rationale for choosing to concentrate on them? Finally, we turn to strategies. What strategies did you identify that will support the language targets you set? The strategies we have chosen support the 3 target areas we just mentioned. Again, your strategies may slightly differ based on your targets. We've identified 3 strategies to support our language targets. First, to help with editing, continue using a process approach to writing and encourage peer review with good role models in English. Students will need to first have plenty of opportunity to use and hear the type of language we want them to produce before they are able to accurately edit. Second, to support writing clear and detailed texts on a variety of topics, students could benefit from interrogating sample exam responses to see and talk about models of exemplary writing, which they can then incorporate into their own writing. Finally, to continue growth in presenting clear points and justifications, provide learners with plenty of opportunity to ask and answer more sophisticated and complex questions. This will stretch the use of English as they develop more nuanced language to use for clarifying and justifying their points. Think about whether the strategies you identified in your assessment support the language targets you set in a similar way. We hope this assignment and feedback have been useful to you as you practice using the EAL assessment framework.